Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. It's a back-to-back, which I'm happy about, Ray. On one level, I'm happy about, right? You shake off the loss and you go into not go into Calgary, but you go into the Calgary game with a chance for redemption. Unfortunately, they got shut out last night on their front half of a back-to-back, and they're probably looking for vengeance. Which Canes team shows up and at what point do they show up are both very legitimate questions to be asked. On the good side, Crystal Palace over Millwall yesterday, 3-1, baby. Boom. On to the sixth round, the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. So sorry, I had to.
Holy cow! It's like you've got a Ted Lasso thing going there. Good on you. I hope that
the boys have played well when they've needed to play well.
There you go. You know what? There's no time to dwell. You got to move on. You're probably right. This might be the best thing for the Hurricanes. They'll get a chance to look back at the tape, tomorrow, and they'll look back at both games. Let's hope it's just complete opposite of what we saw last night.
So start strong and finish really crappy?
No. Just
I couldn't help myself.
Like Whalers night. Yeah, no, I get it. I am too. We're hoping it'll be like Whalers night, which we'll get to in the program to be sure. But this is the Storm Cellar, and wouldn't you know it, we have a guest just walking through the door right now. We'll get her to pull up a chair. Bethany's joining us in the Storm Cellar. Bethany, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
You know what? There's always room for great fans. And of course, no matter who you cheer for, whether you're a Caniac or not, we love to talk hockey. But we also know one thing. One thing is absolutely it. One thing is always true, and that is that the fans are what make the team go. Honestly, they're the fuel to the fire, and certainly for Caniacs, that's the case. And that's why we focus on the fans. When they join us, we want to hear their story. We want to know why they're Hurricane fans or whoever they cheer for. Are you a generational fan? Did you start right from the beginning, or did you migrate from somewhere else? I mean, there's important stories here, and we want to hear them. And that's why we're going to focus on you right off the top, shine the spotlight on you, if you will, or if that's a correct way to say it. And let's find out. Bethany, tell us your story of hockey fandom and how you became a Hurricanes fan, a Caniac.
Yeah, so I've grown up in North Carolina my entire life. I remember '06. I remember how excited my parents were that we won the Stanley Cup. I was still pretty young at that time, so I didn't really understand what was going on, but I understood the city was excited. Then the dark years came, kind of fell out of it because I don't know, I wasn't super into hockey at that point in my life when I was younger. But then the resurgence started happening. We started making playoffs again, and then that's when everyone started picking back up, essentially. So actually during the COVID years, I got really into it because, we didn't really have anything else to do. And so I remember, 2021? We were in the playoffs, and I looked at Mom. I was like, "Let's go to a game. I'm bored. Let's go to a game. They're on a heater right now. Let's see how exciting this is."
Yeah.
So we ended up going to a playoff game, and the rest was history. We PNC at the time, rip PNC, was electric, and I try and get people that aren't hockey fans to go to a playoff game specifically, just because the building is electric. Like I cannot sell hockey more than going to a Carolina playoff game,
Mm-hmm.
especially one that we're locked in and we're loaded. It's just a different atmosphere. And so after that, um, we had bought in. Me and my friends had all bought in. We ended up like going to so many games that next year. And sitting through the playoffs, getting out in round two as we do every year. So we had to go through the heartbreak of that, had to go through the heartbreak of trade deadline and this off season. And I realized that like hockey now, I like bought into it more than I thought I would. Like I'm learning like I learned players' names. I have favorites now. I hate when people get traded. Like I'm emotionally attached to these guys. Do they know me? Absolutely not. But do I know them? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, so it's sort of been a general like a oh, this is cool, but now we're up here, right? Now we're
Mm-hmm.
bought in. Now we're like looking at stats. Now we're analyzing things that 5 years ago I could not have told you what icing was.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a general progression in that way, and it's so good. I like to say that I see my year based on the hockey schedule now. Like, so you have hockey between October through what, end of May, early June, and then you got
Right.
2 months off of like depression, and then you're back again. So it's like it's a good trade-off that way.
That's
Give it another couple years because then you have hockey being played October to June, and then you start ticking on the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have draft season, and then you have and then you have trades available, right? So then you have and then you have preseason. So then you have all 4 seasons, right?
oh
Mm-hmm.
man.
Yeah.
It's a lot. That is so great to hear the growth of fandom in anything. And one of the things that you mentioned, I mean, you have favorite players. I'd love to find out about these things. Do you have an all-time favorite? And is it the same as the favorite that maybe you have this year? Do you have someone that like you ride or die with on this particular team? Is it the same? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I mean, fire away. I'd love to hear these things.
So I think that my progression of favorite players has also grown with the progression of the game. I've started like liking players from other teams as well. My first initial favorite player, and he will probably always be my favorite player, and it's cliche to say, but it's Aho, in the sense of he is so electric when he scores. Also, I think me and my friends, we like to like do the goal announcements with Wade. So he'll say him in the arena, and then we'll sit there and like yell him too. And Aho's was probably my favorite to say, just because of like how the cadence of how Wade says it. And so that's really what got me hooked on him. I remember when I was younger that Eric Stahl was still on the team.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a Stahl will always be on the team at this point.
Yeah.
He was just like a recognizable name. When I was younger, Cam Ward, because I liked his mask. It's a Wardo. And then the newer players. See, Natchez was one that I was like semi-attached to,
Yeah.
in the sense of like, okay, he's good, but then he went through a slump. So I was like, you need to get it together. But then he was really good this year, but then we traded him. So he
Well,
that
yeah.
I was like when we got Mikko, I understood the trade and I understood it wasn't supposed to be an upgrade. Whether or not that is going to be an upgrade, we don't know yet. Um, but I was like actually upset that we had traded him off. And then I actually have his jersey on my wall, Ethan Bear. He was a guy
Mm.
that came in that he had a great reputation. He was a great player and an overall like just good guy. I ended up getting picked that season to go down to the ice, and he was just the one that I got his jersey of. And I loved him anyways. I hate that COVID put him in his slump and,
Yeah.
continuing to wreak havoc on his life. But he was just a decent guy. I really enjoy the guys that are just, they, um, they're just, decent human beings on and off the ice.
Mhm.
Seth Jarvis is becoming one of my favorite players. I just got his jersey, actually. He was the next one on my list. Um, I love Freddie, love PK. Like I said, I'm wholly attached to this team. Um, so whether I have a favorite player, it'd probably be Aho and Jarvis, but I love all of them equally in their own little ways.
I love hearing that. Brad, that, it's funny. She mentioned it's cliche to like Aho, and I mean, he's my favorite. I call him Francis 2.0 because of the way he plays reminds me of my all-time favorite player, like for life, who is tied to this team, Ron Francis. And it, you know, the reasons why you enjoy are almost, I don't want to say irrelevant, but you mentioned Ethan Bear. I loved the deal that got him over there and having him join the club
Mhm.
because you saw how he played in his previous locations and he would be a great fit and was. Uh, it that's the thing about the business aspect of it. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. And it's a shame when it does. And the hardest part is the emotional attachments, right? Your attachment to Natchez, totally understandable. The talent was always there, but you're also right. He would go into slumps, and then it makes you question, like, what's the problem? Why isn't he doing this all the time, right? And that whole thing grows, and it becomes hard, especially when they're traded. You know what I mean? Like that's so hard, Brad. I don't know, Brad. I love hearing about how not only how they become fans, but how they become fans of certain players and what speaks to the fans that we have that join us.
Yeah, it's the individuality, right? The uniqueness. And yeah, Bear, as soon as Bear came in, I was super excited. I texted Ray right away and we went back and like, oh yeah, this could be a really good fit. And I'm with the fact, I mean, COVID, I think just decimated. I don't know how much of that was lingering, but I suspect that a lot of his issues long term had to do with just the long term COVID thing. The fact that you got his jersey like off his back, like that's pretty amazing because having a
Awesome.
Bear jersey at all is cool, and but having like what is probably one of two, maybe. I mean, he was here long enough. He probably got three sets of homes and aways. But I mean, that's a collector's item. Like that's
No
there's a lot
question.
of value in a jersey like that. So that's really sweet. And Natchez is a good example of like, I mean, even somebody like Aho or KK or Fetch, like those guys have long term contracts, but you just never know like when somebody's going to get dealt, right? At the end of the day, it is a business. And unless a guy has a full no movement clause, he's possibly going somewhere. That's I think to me that's when a lot of people when it clicks for them when they're like, oh, I like hockey and I go into games, it's kind of fun, whatever. And then somebody they really like gets traded and they're hurt by it, and it's like, oh yeah, like now like you're in deeper than you realize.
Mhm.
Because it's tough. I mean, even today, I mean, you and I are grizzled and old now, and I don't think it
Oh
affects
yeah.
us as much. But like, I mean, if it was an Aho, if it was a Svechnikov, like that, like it would still hurt, right?
It
And
totally.
and sometimes it's like the Ron Francis way. Like obviously he was dealt to Pittsburgh as a young man and then went on to win some cups. But when Ron Francis was dealt away to the Leafs towards the end of his career, I mean, that even hurt. I mean, that for me
Uh,
was a stinger because, they were looking for a fourth line center to try and make a cup run and we sent him packing. And I mean, it was the right move, but I didn't like it. I mean, I
no,
remember being very upset that they were running Ron Francis as a fourth line center.
It
which
was,
was the right hockey move. I mean, that's what they brought him in for, was to bolster that line. But yeah, it speaks to the passion that our fans have for the team, and in general. I mean, hockey is a growing sport, but it's not growing at the rate of some other ones, and so I think a lot of hockey fans are passionate about their team. Like we see that. I think that's part of why there's so many disagreements in hockey between fan bases. Like, generally we kind of hate the Rags fans and, the Devils fans and sometimes the Islanders fans. And the list kind of goes right. Nashville fans and Florida fans. And some of that I think is because it's a smaller overall community. And though, you're deeply attached. Like, this is my guy. It's a little high school cliquish, maybe,
yeah, maybe a
our high school
little.
versus your high school, our team versus your team. But,
You know
yeah,
it's
that's part of
bad
the fun, I
when
think.
you know it's bad when you see a trade rumor. I saw one of Svetch the other day, or it was like a fan that was like, "Give me Svetch," and I like went up in arms. I was like, "Absolutely not." Or it's the trades that like would never happen. Like Eric would never trade this person, and
Mhm.
they're like, well, this is going to happen, and we're going to get this person, and I'm like, nope. That's when you know you've bought in deep, when you get upset about like fake
Yeah.
trades that would never
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Clickbait
And some of the things people come up with, like
suggestions.
they used to make me mad, but now it's like, do you watch hockey? Like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
oh, we can get Svechnikov for a fourth liner and 2 second-round picks. And I'm like,
And a bag of pucks.
no, like under that's a 0% chance. Like, there's no way. Like, I suggest you do some more research.
And you know what's really great about all of this, Brad, is Bethany very quickly stated, I got to circle back to this, gets fans involved by bringing them to playoff games. That is
Yeah,
just
that's a great way to do
brains.
it.
That is smart because you are right. Building that is normally rocking really goes to the next level. I mean, the fans really bring it in the playoffs, and that's the this is going to sound awful, and I apologize, but it's the purest form of the drug, right? It's we become addicted to the game, and we become addicted to all of the aspects. It's and you got it young, right? The Stanley Cup winning final. I mean, you were a part of that. You experienced it. It was all over. It was great. And that just doesn't go away. That feeling, that joy, no matter how young you are, because even the young kids that experience that, that's how you get your generational,
Yeah,
fans
even if you
over
don't
time.
totally get everything that's going on, I think you kind of mentioned, like, I knew it was something big. And for a young kid, like, that's sometimes enough, right?
That
Mhm.
is absolutely. I love hearing that. And, you know, so now, because you're clearly knowledgeable, you know your stuff. We get to relive and recap the last week. And I know that doesn't sound like fun. I mean, there was one great night in there, but we need to take a look at what's been going on. And, oh, Brad,
Yo.
when we were in Toronto and we were talking about the points that we expected,
Hmm.
did only two ever jump into your mind
I feel
as a
like, being the pessimist in
possibility?
the group, I feel like I might have said two. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember because of the way they've been playing. I mean, I, I don't know if my honesty is brutal honesty, but it tends to border on direct. I definitely feel like I may have said, oh, they may only get two out of this because it it is what it is, but it should have been more. Even
Uh,
if I said two, like, it should have been more, I should have been wrong, right?
yeah, we
To,
were, and we included Toronto in that because, of course, the recording was before the game. So we had Toronto, the team that shall not be named, Buffalo, Edmonton, and we have Calgary today. So we had this overlap that we don't normally do. And to take 5 games and suggest that we could get 7 points, in my case, I thought 7 points was reasonable. It was there. The points were there for a team that is showing up. And we've only got 2 so far. And we're coming up against a team who is fighting for their playoff lives on a bit of a losing streak themselves, just like the Oilers were last night. They got shut out in Florida, quick turnaround, just like us. And with 2 points. What?
You want me to really scare you, Ray?
No, please no. But yes.
Too bad. I'm going to.
Yeah.
As of yesterday, the Blue Jackets are 4 points behind you with a game in hand.
Yeah.
And if you keep losing, or if your winning percentage keeps being in the 400 to 500 range, you're going to miss the playoffs.
Yep.
It's a very real possibility.
A lot of people kept trying to talk us back. And Bethany, I don't know if this happened to you. There's a lot of people that we talk to, fans, friends, all the rest of it over time, and some are more optimistic than others. I don't like calling some fans apple polishers or water carriers. I hate being like that, but sometimes they are. They just the facts are in front of you. There's a reason to show concern. Maybe not panic, but certainly concern. And Bethany, based on what we've seen in this past week, where do you fall in this? I didn't want to put any pressure on you. If you believe that we can make it, then that's great. You know what I mean? We love that sort of thing. But I got the feeling from when we had our discussion before we started recording that you've got your concerns as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm like panicking for playoffs. I think that we'll make the playoffs. I'm panicking like first round. We're used to getting out second round, right? But at this point, with the players that we have not showing up, we could very much be out in the first round. And that's concerning. That's concerning to me. Um, I think that I think that some of the fans are waiting for the pin to drop and for us to go on like a 10-game streak like we've seen them done or we've seen them do in past seasons. And I was honestly one of those fans. I was like, okay, we're in a slump. We're going to get it back. We're going to go on a streak. But that has not happened at all this season. We are used to going on streaks. We'll lose a couple games here and there, but then we're right back on it. And that's not happening. And it hasn't happened this season. And that's concerning. Especially the talent that we have on this team. It's my thing is like these guys play hockey every single day. They're getting paid to play hockey. Especially with the Mikko trade. I understand that he's coming from a different team that he was with 10 years ago. But take away the jersey, right? Take away the team that you're wearing. You are still playing hockey.
Uh-huh.
Why are you not like continuing to just do the same thing that you do every day? Why that's the disconnect for me. Is like you're doing the same things, but like why are you not producing? Why are you not defending like you usually do? What is going on in the locker room that is like got your attention elsewhere, is making you play not the way that you usually play? I don't understand the disconnect there. So yeah, I think the fans have a right to be concerned, and I think that we should be a little more concerned than we are. Especially, I'm not one to call out the coaching staff or anything like that. I love Rod. He's a staple of the community, but I think something needs to change, whether it's his stubbornness behind the bench, his loyalty to the players, the assistant coaches, Something's got to change here. Or we're not. This season was all about going for the cup, right? And that's not happening with the way that this is going. And we're usually stellar in the regular season, and that's like our cliche, right? We're really good at the regular season, but then we drop off in the playoffs. We might not even make. I mean, we'll make the playoffs, but we very well might just get out the first round. So,
And
that's where
as somebody who's willing to call it the coaching staff, this is either a coaching staff problem or a locker room leadership problem or both. And I think it's both.
Mm-hmm.
Money Puck has our stats to make the playoffs now at 97.1%, which is great, right? Sounds wonderful. That's down from like 99.5, which is, if you think about it, in the last 10 games, they've dropped 2%. I mean, it's substantial in the short run, right? You come out against the Leafs completely flat and just Brent Burns makes 2 horrible plays and it's 2-0 early on, right? Then you play the team that shall not be named and you can't get a goal. So in 2 games, you have a total of 3 goals. You beat up on a terrible Sabres team. I mean, I guess you get credit for that because the win's a win. It's not your fault they're bad, but it's a terrible Sabres team. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. You beat a team you should have beaten them 5-3. Like that's you did what you should have done.
Yep.
Then you come up against the Oilers, and in the first period, completely flat again. Middle frame, little better. Third frame, oh, we should try and win this. We're playing hockey. The goal is more points. This is not golf where low score wins. This is high score wins. We should do something. But that has been true for the Edmonton game, the Habs game, but you never came back. The Leafs game, the Wild game, the Jets game, the Kings game. Hold on, let me keep going back into January. That was true. You know what I mean? It's over and over. We're seeing the same problems, and you're able to overcome them and win. You know, you OT winners in January against like Pittsburgh and the Blackhawks, and you came back. I think it was Vegas. And can we not? Can we do anything in the first period? The first period is so. I don't even want to watch the first period because I know we're either not going to score or we're going to go down, and they're not really going to start playing until like halfway through the game. And as Bethany said, they're professionals. So they should self-motivate. And we hear the same cliches. I can't even listen to the intermission interviews because it's, well, we really should have come out better in the first and we weren't playing our game. And yeah, okay. So you guys say that you know what's going on, but you're not fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think
that's also what's so frustrating too, is like,
right. It's
where's the disconnect?
Yeah, my kid's 11, so same thing. Like, okay, you've done this the same way 47 times. It's not working. At what point are you going to try something different? Like, that's critical thinking is important. You need to do something different. And if the guys can't self-motivate into that, Rod needs to understand he's a player's coach and appreciate Joe and Joe from Ovies and Giglio. They actually read a tweet. They had interviewed Rod, and I basically afterwards was like, until somebody point blank asked Rod about Brent Burns, like, I'm not happy. And Joe Ovies responded, and he was right. Like they did ask directly-ish, if that makes sense. And I realized why I didn't catch it the first time through. They couched the question about Burns in a Slavin, like, Slavin's playing really good, and there's Brent Burns, and they don't really say like Brent's stinking it up, and I think my son had come in and asked me a question. So I missed like 4 seconds of the interview, which was like the 4 seconds where they were kind of sort of being direct. And I get it. And to Joe's point, Joe's like, hey, we knew what the answer was going to be. There's no reason to be confrontational with Rod because we could ask the question the way that you wanted to ask and we get the same answer. So I appreciate that. They're professional journalists. I am not. But at some point, I mean, it was really obvious again last night. Brent Burns is not fast enough to play 23 minutes a night. I remember, going on social media at one point, I'm like, hey, Brent Burns was only 10 feet behind the play on that one. And luckily Anderson made a great save. But literally the pass comes over, the shot goes on net, Freddie stops it, and then Brent Burns slides in the frame like 2 seconds later. That's not acceptable. Brent Burns has 1 power play point since January 1st. Ghost has 4 points in 4 games now, which isn't, actually, it's really good. But that isn't the way he was playing, but he also has a new kid. Like his life is in turmoil in some ways, his personal life. Of course, that's going to affect him. Burns should not be on the power play at this point, and he certainly should not be on the penalty kill at this point for any reason. I'm sorry. It's just true. I love Burnsy as much as the next person. I hope he sticks around when he retires because I think he would be great addition to strength and conditioning, something like that with the team. But Brent Burns has 1 power play point. I made a joke because, Mentor had said something about Stormy falling off the railing or something. And I was like, A, is he okay? And B, can he quarterback a power play? Because I feel confident Stormy could luck into 1 point in 2 months on the power play. I'm pretty sure any of the 3 of us could luck into 1 point on the power play in 2 months. I really honestly feel that way. Now, we might trip and fall and hit the puck with our stick and it bounces to somebody who makes a great pass and it's in. But it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm frustrated about
it. 300s, and I'm like, let me on the ice at this point. It's like abysmal watching our power play. I'm like, can we not?
Can we try something new? Literally anything. Bring in anyone to try something different. And you have to do something about the first period. You can't.
Yeah.
KK, thank you for literally, in my mind, saving Whalers night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
KK's like, I just went out there and was like, Cousins, you want to go? And Cousins like, yeah, I'll go with you. And set the tone. Like, why isn't our quote unquote leadership doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd like to know, did KK do that in a vacuum? Because I don't think that's something you're like, hey, Aho, should I start a fight in the first 3 seconds? Because Aho would be like, nah, man, that's stupid. But KK, I think, is like, oh, I get to go out first. Okay, like, I'm gonna set the tone. Like, let's get the crowd involved immediately. And
I think
worked.
he said that he made the decision during the anthem.
That's right. Yeah, fight. Right. Why isn't any of the quote unquote leaders on this team doing something?
Mm-hmm.
KK could do it. KK gets dropped to the 4th line he gets dropped to the lowest ice time line at the drop of a hat. He gets bagged on by fans for being overpaid. KK should be the last guy who's going out there and saying, I'm going to do something about this, but he's doing it. So is Jordan Staal a good leader on the ice? Yes. Have I questioned, is he the right leader for that locker room? Also, yes. As Sebastian Aho's letter was somewhat cliche, certainly ghost written, but came off genuine. Like, I think he really feels that way. And that's what you need, right? I still say you give Jordan Martinook the C because Jordan's the one person in that locker room I feel like is going to say something to you. And I think this locker room needs somebody who's willing to politely, but get on your butt. Like, sometimes a little tough love is necessary. And I don't know. Go ahead.
The letter,
I'm
the letter to the fans by Aho. I wanted to touch on that too. I really enjoyed it, and you can tell that that's what he really thinks, that it is genuine, that it is who he is and how he feels. And I hearken back to the struggles that they had last season with the, trip to the West that was absolutely abysmal. And he helps call the players only meeting, and they work it out. And then he sets the tone. I love that phrase, by the way, setting the tone. Thank you, Shorzy. Because man, oh man, we need someone to get in there and set the tone. But regardless, reset the tone. Shorzy season 4. Watch it. I'm just gonna leave that there. He needs to be that leader, but it can't all fall on him either. And that's the thing. When the hardest part about watching this club, the hardest part is knowing that the talent is there and knowing that if they show up the way on time, the way they did they are 2 completely different teams. And Brad and I, who text each other throughout every game, the first thing that we noticed was, where the heck was this team? Where did it come from? Because this is who we know. This is the Hurricanes playing hurricane hockey. And if they would just start at the puck drop, that's really all I'm asking for. Give me 60 minutes.
Losses are losses, but not playing 30 minutes is not just losing. It's not being outclassed by a better team.
And there will be people who suggest, well, you got to give the opponents credit for some of that as well. And you're right. There's another team out there trying to do their thing, but it's all about, to me, it's a matter of will. Do you have the will to impose your style of play in any game? And when the Whalers / the Hurricanes, I'm saying that backwards, but I'm a Whalers fan from way back. When they impose their will, they will win. And we all got spoiled with the 14-4 record to start the season. And they were fire. And they were playing, there was never a complaint. You're not playing 60 minutes, ever. Even in the losses, start of the season, we were getting solid effort throughout. And since American Thanksgiving, it's been a roll of the dice. And most times we come up snake eyes. And
if you give me that effort and we lose, I'm not even mad.
There's no complaint. No complaint at all. No reason to complain. Because again, if you put that effort in, if you impose your will and you still get beat, maybe you get goal lead, so be it.
You know what it reminds me of? So the Germans have a word, Gestalt, which means something that is more than the sum of its parts, right?
Right.
And championship teams tend to have that, right? The 2006 Cup run is an excellent example of that. You had not the best players in the league, but they together, they were the best team in the league.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Germans have a word for the opposite of that, but that's how they're playing now. They are playing as less than the sum of their parts, and I don't know how, and that's the infuriating part. And just to diverge real quickly, we were talking before the show that I had like an epiphany this morning. Thanks to Deb, our hockey mom, because she posted something about like, kind of giving up on the season. Like, I'm not even upset like when they lose. And it hit me. And the reason I'm upset and the reason that I complain and the reason that I'm vocal about it is I remember the apathetic days when people didn't care. And for me, right now, when they're playing like they don't care, what keeps me vested is my Roy Kent inner anger, because the opposite of that is I stopped caring about this season. And that's a great way to lose a hockey team. You can ask, since it's been Whalers night and it comes up every year, ask the people in Hartford how they feel when they were apathetic and weren't showing up. And then they tried, and then Carmanos, in my opinion, he was going to move the team no matter what they did. They offered him, hey, if you get so many season tickets, we'll keep them, blah, blah, blah. I think that was all smoke and mirrors, right?
Yep.
But apathy is worse than people being angry. So if people are like, oh, like, why are you so angry? And why do you get upset by this? It's because I'm trying to throw fuel on my own fire to continue to care about this team that doesn't look like they care. I mean, honestly, if you watch the first period of a lot of the last, dozen games, do they look like they're vested? Are they forechecking hard? Are they making crisp passes? Are they skating hard? Are they making some? No, they're not. And they get there eventually, but that's part of what makes me mad. So if I have to choose between being upset and vocalizing that and people thinking that I'm just an old curmudgeon, or being apathetic and deciding, you know what, I'm just not going to watch the game at all, even before it starts. And that's why. Because apathy will destroy this team.
And Brad, Bethany hinted at it. the dark days, people stopped caring.
They were closer to
And
moving, I think, than people might remember. Especially newer
yeah,
fans may not realize. Like the team was, I think the team was closer to moving than not moving before Tom stepped in.
and I saw Bethany nodding her head, agreeing with a lot of what you had to say, how dangerous apathy is. I wanted to get you to jump in here, Bethany, and get your take. Would you rather be a curmudgeon? I mean, a much nicer curmudgeon than the two of us. We're Statler and Waldorf of all of the hurricane podcasts that are out there. Would you rather be like that than not caring at all? What what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only this hard on the team because I care. I want to see them do good. I want to see them win games. I fully believe that online bullying is a good thing when it comes to when it comes to motivating your team. You guys will see firsthand. I'm not one to mince my words online. Um, when it comes to, it's because I care. It's because I'm proud of this team. I am the number one, like, will get people to a game. I ended up getting like 10 people to go to the preseason game just because I wanted to go. Because I was like, oh
Nice.
my God, this team is so great. You get to see the preseason players and we'll win this game. We didn't win the game, but it was it's just because I'm proud of the city. I'm proud of this team. I want to lift the Stanley Cup in Raleigh. Like I don't think that you can be a diehard without criticizing the team in a sense. Like you have to be realistic here. You have to see the passes aren't clean. You have to see that we're skating at 5 miles an hour. There's no oomph to this team, right? They're not throwing hits. They're not doing this, they're not doing that. Um, I also think that like when they're not into it, the fans aren't into it, and in return, they can tell the fans aren't into it, so they just don't care anymore.
Yeah,
I've been
it's a
to games,
cycle.
especially so Whalers night. I was at Whalers night. KK, I was not expecting KK to drop the gloves that fast. So I was still on my phone. I was like sitting there, like showing my friend a picture. And then all of a sudden I look up and KK's on the ground beating this guy up. But the crowd was into it. The
Yeah,
crowd was into it the entire 60 minutes. But the games, I've been to abysmal games where the guys come out and they're slow and crowd is dead, like to the point where I'm like, am I in Lenovo right now? Because this is not even nearly what I'm used to. Like it's dead quiet. And so when the fans aren't into it, they in turn, I think they feed off the fans a little bit more than we think they do, especially during the playoffs. I've seen games where fans are on their feet for all 60 minutes of a playoff game, and the building is rocking, and they are every shot. There's either an awe or like a cheer, you know.
Oh,
But I also think that like the fan interaction is also playing into their behaviors right now. Um, because you're right. They're the ones that set the tone for the entire building, not just the team. And
okay.
it helps them a lot. But going back to your question, I think that once again, if you aren't critical of what is on the ice right now, then that is one way to lose the team because people just stop caring.
And
You're so right. Sorry, Brad. I just very
no, no,
quickly, the times when you can really tell that the fans are paying attention when in a game where they're just not playing their style, but all of a sudden they put two hard forechecking shifts back to back. The fans become energized and that feeds what's going on. It's that positive cycle. They're like, yes, this is what we want all the time. Thank you, you guys. We're behind you when you
Mhm.
do this. Show us this. We will continue to give you more to get over the hump and get that puck in the net. Like that's the fans recognize and reward good play. Good play that is Hurricanes hockey. Okay. There's a difference between just playing hockey and playing Hurricanes hockey. And we're not seeing the latter enough. Brad, sorry, I cut you off.
No, not at all. To Bethany's point, perhaps the hardest job in sports might be like Trip and Mike, right? And Hannah and Shane. And because team employees like Shane and Hannah can tend to be a little more honest, if I'm being honest about it.
Yeah.
But Mike and Trip, right? Their job is to keep TV viewers and radio listeners engaged, right? And when things don't go well, they can't just be like, oh man, the Hurricanes are really playing like crap tonight, right? This is not going to be acceptable to the team, even though some fans would like it. Some fans would hate it because they'd be, why are you being negative? Like you work for it. And so one of the things I've noticed is more and more people who are talking about like Trip, like, don't pee on us and tell us it's raining.
Yeah.
Right. Which is kind of his job. But
Yeah.
and I think our team does a pretty good job. But like I tune out of those intermission interviews and things now because it's sunshine and mirrors. It's oh no, I think we just got to work hard and get back. Well, but nothing changes, right? And I just wanted to give a shout out. I know this sounds like I'm complaining, but a shout out to Mike and Tripp and the team because they have to toe that line between positive energy and keeping things upbeat and trying to not overdo it. And I think they do a pretty good job. But as fans, most hockey fans I know are can discriminate between what's really going on and what they're being told. And when you're just getting your butt kicked in the first period or two of a game because you're just not playing well, it's hard to listen to those guys, being like, oh, we really close there. It wasn't, it didn't look that bad. And we almost had, no, we didn't. It was bad. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
shout out to those guys. And like I said, I know it sounds like I'm just piling on, but I really appreciate what they have to do because they can't just be like, wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
They have to kind of put the spin on it and it's tough, but fans see that. And it's for fans like me, that's a turnoff, right? For younger fans or fans who are casual fans, they probably aren't as, don't quite pick up on it as much and they're probably okay with it. But like we're in a loop, right? It's a Groundhog Day. Like it's the same thing every game, like Whalers night being the exception against one of the worst teams in the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's you didn't do that against the Devils. You didn't do that against the Blue Jackets who were nipping at your heels. Like you did against one of the worst teams in the entire league. Chicago, I think, scored like 6 goals last night. Chicago, literally one of the worst teams in the league, is putting up points, and you can't score 3. So hey, I'm gonna try and be done complaining. I apologize.
No. That's okay. And Brad, I think the best part about this podcast is that, we say we're honest, but we're fair. You know what I mean? And that's,
I think we are.
I think I
Other
believe
people may
we
not
are.
agree.
So yeah, others might not. And
But
so
nobody says it. So I mean, I haven't seen anybody call us out in a while. So
no, that's knock on wood. That'll be
please
the
do.
way it
If you're listening and
continues
you're
to
like,
be.
wow, you guys are dead wrong. Like, tell me. I'm
Yeah,
a big
let
boy.
us
I can
know.
take it.
We're big shoulders, super
I say
big
nothing
shoulders.
about Brent Burns or Rob Brindamore I wouldn't say to their face, and I expect the same treatment. If you think that I'm wrong, then say, Brad, like you're dead wrong on this, and this is why. That's fine. I'm a
You
big boy.
set that up so beautifully. You set that up so that, folks, is what we call in broadcasting a segue.
Little scooter with 2 wheels.
Well, something like that.
That's what we call a dad joke.
Well, yeah, I love that too, by the way. Well done. We're going to a new segment We've done this once before. We're going to do it again today. I kind of dropped this on Brad at the end, but that segue was beautiful. Um, it's called Raymond, you're just wrong. Okay? I'm gonna give you three sentences both. And if you agree with me, great. But if you don't, start out by saying, Raymond, you're just wrong. And then we'll talk about the reasons why you feel that way. Are you ready to go? We've done this once before. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So, the very first question, the Carolina Hurricanes are a lock for the playoffs. Fire away.
You were to go
Bethany,
first,
you get to go
Bethany,
first,
or
Bethany, or yeah.
if you want me to go first, you can think that's fine.
They'll make it. I think they'll pull it together and they'll make it. Whether or not they'll make it far is up in the air, but I think they'll get the initial round.
There you go. So she's on my side, Brad.
But you used the word lock.
I did use the word
And
lock.
money, I mean, look, 97% sounds like a lock. But Money Puck doesn't watch the team play. Money Puck looks at advanced stats, which advanced stats sometimes look fine. I look at, I don't know what you call them, simple stats. Like, can you score goals? Are they a lock? I agree with you hesitantly, but there are two wild card positions,
Yep.
and that is why I agree with you. If you had said, are they a lock to make the playoffs as part of a Metro, one of the Metro 3, I would disagree with that. But they can slide 4 spots, and make the playoffs as WC2. And as bad as they are, the other teams are just worse.
See, and I don't even believe that sentence myself because, frankly, for me, the only way that this team makes the playoffs with the way that they're playing right now, and that's, I mean, first of all, that's the playing less, just bare under 500 hockey for the rest of the season, especially when you have all of these home games, that it's not going to get you in. They are a lock if they finish in the top three. If they drop into a wild card position where they need the wild card to get in, there are so many other teams that are right there. You have to be in the top three. Have to if you intend to be in the playoffs. So even I don't necessarily believe that line, but if you're going to do a new segment, you got to say some controversial things. Like this next statement. Eric Tulsky must flip Mikko Rantanen.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Nope.
Okay, so Raymond, you're just wrong.
Raymond, you're just wrong. Sorry
Why?
about that one.
No, don't be sorry. Fire away. Why? No, why?
I genuinely believe that because of how he was traded and the shock that came with it, I don't think that he's had time to acclimate to Raleigh. Um, I think we'll still have him Friday. I don't think that Tulsa will flip him, but I'm not entirely sure if he'll stay. But I think that as long as we get a playoff run out of him, and if he sees the building, if he sees or it's Lenovo now, but if he sees Lenovo rocking like it usually is during the playoffs, and if the boys show up during the playoffs, I think that he will be convinced that to stay. I think that right now, and I kind of hate the timeline of how this happened because he gets traded. We're on a slump. We think that he's going to come in and get us out of the slump, but he in return is also on a slump. He's not seeing Hurricane hockey right now. And so if I was Mikko, I wouldn't want to stay with this team, right? Because we quite frankly suck right now. But I hope for his sake that he can look past that and see his teammates and see the guys that they are and see the locker room and see the culture around Carolina. Fall in love with the city, fall in love with it's a lot warmer than it is in Colorado. Um, I'm hoping all of like the outside factors will sort of like convince him to stay. So I don't think they're going to flip him, at least by Friday. But I still think that I don't want to get Jake Gensel again. I'm still upset about that. I will boo Jake Gensel anytime he steps into Lenovo. Um, but I think we have a little bit more time to convince him um, than Eric just flipping him on Friday
There's
or by
so,
Friday.
and Bethany, I'm with you. Tampa Bay. I mean, come on, guy. Like they need to be booed out of the building every time, certainly, as well as Gensel. I don't blame you. It's funny. There's been a lot of statements. Oh, there's no such, I really don't believe that anyone will be tampering with it. Come on. There's tampering all the time. And there's been tampering with Mikko from the moment he was traded. So, yeah. Brad, what do you think?
Oh, you're dead wrong. I mean, but you're also, you're also parodying the national media, who I often say are generally dead wrong when it comes to the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are like 3-7 in the games that Mikko has been here. Do you really want to make him make a decision by Friday to be here with a 7.3% power play and going 3-7 and not playing 50% of the games, like literally taking off the first 30 minutes? I don't. There's zero chance they trade him at the deadline. None. If he told them tomorrow, I'm not resigning here, maybe. Because if other teams know that he's not resigning here, it doesn't necessarily matter if we trade him today or trade him in 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Now, you might be able to get more for him from somebody who's making a playoff push, but that would be the only way. And I don't think Mikko is going to say, I don't want to be here in the next 5 days. So there's no chance he gets traded. None. If he ends up walking, okay, that stinks. Marty Necas was walking next year anyway, unless you trade him for a bag of pucks because you weren't going to extend his rights either. So you're not out that much. But you don't want to make him make a decision. He was blindsided by the trade. He said, I thought I was going to be there forever. Like, this came out of nowhere. You don't take that and then add the pressure and go, hey, here's the offer. It sounds like they offered him somewhere between $108 and $112 million, which is a $13.5 to $14 million contract. So money-wise, he can't make more money anywhere else. I know with state taxes and stuff, people are like, well, technically he could maybe look. He's got money. Okay, a couple, $2 or $3 million here and there is not going to make or break this deal. If he wants to be here, he'll sign. And Tulski's been very clear. I have until June 30th, July 1st to sign him, and that's what the plan is. So there's zero chance that he gets flipped.
I'm with you. I don't believe that he'll be flipped, but sometimes Elliot Friedman gets into my head.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing because he's smart, I mean, he's connected and he knows. One of the things that he pointed out was what the Hurricanes are looking for at this point is some sort of indication. Maybe I'm not going to force you to make a decision, but what do you think? And what he says is the price to get Mikko Rantanen onto your club was high. Necas and Drury. That's not anything to sneeze at. They gave up a lot to get him. And to possibly lose him in the end, I mean, unless you win the cup, it's going to be considered a loss for the trade. It just is. Then you throw into the fact, like we mentioned earlier, as it was with Gensel and Tampa Bay Lightning, there is going to be tampering involved. So if you can't get them leaning to say, you know what, yeah, I'll probably do it. And man, that's a lot of money, the extra year, the security, all the rest of it. I mean, that speaks volumes. Everyone said he wants Draisaitl money. That's what he wants. That's what he believes he's worth. That's what I think he's worth. I believe he's worth that money. So Brad and I have said numerous times, give him the keys to the building. Whatever it takes, give him the keys to the building and he will resign. The problem is there's this unsurety that's going on. There is of course, the way the team is playing. It's not good. There's a whole, and people like to stir things up and clickbait and all sorts of nonsense that is going on because it's their job and they talk hockey. And why not stir things up with the biggest trade of the season? And I would argue, regardless of what happens at the trade deadline, this will still be the biggest trade of the year amongst all of them. We saw a few trades last night with a few teams too. They don't even come close to being in the same realm of this deal.
Yeah. And this will be different than Gensel, who they were late matching his offer like a day or two before free agency. And then he's like, if I just wait 48 hours, I can do what I want. Like the Hurricanes have made the offer. Like the offer's there. Now Mikko just has to decide, does he want to play here or elsewhere? So this is not going to go down to the wire. It's not going to happen by Friday, but I don't think this is going to be a June 30th. Oh, by the way, he's going to free agency. This will be a week, within a week or so of the season being over, we'll probably have his decision and we'll be able to move on. So,
what I want to ask you guys is what you think on, so like when we got Mikko, you had all the Colorado fans come out and say, okay, well, he only put up those points because he had Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar on his line or whatever, right? So my thing is I've seen Mikko play in a couple games now, is like I see the talent there, but can the guys that are on our team keep up with him? And is the chemistry there in that sense for him to be like, oh, I want to sign an 8-year deal here? Because there's been, and that might just be me looking into it a little bit deeper than everybody else. Granted, he just got here and he's learning these guys' names still, but there's been a couple plays or passes and I'm like, Mikko knew what he was doing. He knew where he was going to pass that puck. Our guy was not there, and they can't read him yet. And that, like I said, that might just be them like getting used to each other. But like, is that going to be like, is he just on a different level than the rest of the guys where they're never gonna be able to like mesh with him?
Yeah, Brad, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think the lack of training camp is a much bigger factor than people realize, because Mikko's one of the best players in the league. I mean, he is your superstar. No offense to Aho. If you're looking at pure talent right now, he's your best player. All the advanced metrics for him are better, if I recall, in Carolina than they were in Colorado, except for actual goal scoring. That's why I say the advanced metrics are great. Look at the simple metrics. But he's come within an inch or two on half a dozen goals, right? He's got 6 points in 10 games, so a 0.6 point per game clip. He could easily be over a point per game with 6 inches total of puck movement, right?
Yeah.
And as good as guys are, in Colorado, he was playing beside McKinnon, and it was go fast, score goals. Like, that's your job. This is a completely different system, and people keep wanting to compare Natchez and Rantanen, and it's not fair. You're taking Natchez, who did not thrive in the defensive 200-foot system, and you put him into an F1 Indy car, and he's flying. Well, yeah, because he's an F1 car. Like you put him in a situation that works alongside, that complements his style. And yes, of course he's taken off. You're taking Mikko, who's been playing that style hockey, but I think can play the 200-foot game, and it's going to take some time. So the fact, not having a training camp to me is a really big deal because he's having to come learn an entirely new system on the fly while expecting people for him to continue what he's done, right? And for all the Colorado fans who are like, oh, he's only good because of Nathan McKinnon. If you told them today, we'll give you Mikko Rantanen back for Jack Drury or something like that, they would all be like, absolutely 100% yes today because they know he's that good, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's just time. Like Mikko needs he needs to have an off season. He needs to have a training camp. He needs to get a chance to really do it. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think it's going to take that long. I think he's going to find it here in the next couple of weeks because all the metrics say he's doing all the right things. And to your point, Bethany, part of the problem with Natchez is he was so quick when you buried him down the depth chart, the guys weren't good enough. It's the same reason I complain about first line Martinook. Martinook is a great player. He's gritty. He's a puck retriever. He does all those things. But does he think the way Aho thinks the game with that level of skill? Not like Teravainen did. And that's why when Teravainen would get the puck, no look behind the back pass to the slot, and Aho's sitting there because they know each other. They think the same way. And Mikko needs time for that kind of adjustment. I mean, to me, it's only a matter of time till Mikko busts out.
Brad, I can skate. Not terribly well, but I can skate. If I were put on a line with Nathan McKinnon, I could get at least 5 points. In an NHL environment with guys crushing me, I could still get 5 points.
You just stand at the red line and just pass it to an area, and he'll go get it and put it in the net.
Exactly.
Boom, assist. Right?
He's Nathan
McKinnon.
Yes, he's Nathan McKinnon on another level, even above, Rantanen. He's above Rantanen, which says a lot. So that argument just blows my mind. He's only there, like you're diminishing the guy that you had, and you're propping up Natchez too, because we've got the most experience with the way Natchez is. We know that exactly as Brad said, now that he's playing on a pedal to the metal hockey team that skates fast, always is offensive minded, and doesn't play a 200-foot game because they don't believe they have to. They just go out there and try to outscore you to death. So, yeah.
You know what the biggest difference is, honestly?
What's that?
In Colorado, Mikko Rantanen had a 18.5-ish% shooting percentage.
Yeah.
And in Carolina, it's 6. And when you look at everything else, that 6 is going to come up because he is not a 6% shooter. So as soon as that becomes 12, okay, his point production goes from 0.6 to 1.2.
And
you know what I mean? It really is that simple. At some point, he is going to just start putting pucks in the net instead of off the bars. And everybody will forget this was even a conversation. That's the good news.
That is the good news. Last one. Caniacs demand too much from their players. What do you think? It's that now we have to be introspective. Now we actually have to look at ourselves. I mean, we spend all the time looking at the team, and we have certain demands and so forth.
I'm going to say you're wrong. I'm going to say you're wrong in the sense of we know what the coaching staff demands. So we're just trying to we've heard Rod talk about what he demands of this team, and we know that they're not showing up, especially to Rod's demands. He might think that they're showing up in interviews, but we can see on the ice that they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's part of the disconnect of you have these expectations, you have these demands, and you have these of the coaching staff, and we know what they are. They're very vocal about what they demand of their guys. And we're not seeing it per se on the ice. And so I don't think that we're demanding too much. We're just demanding what the coaching staff demands of them, which is Carolina hockey. And we're not getting that right now. So.
Love it. Brad? What do you think?
Could you repeat the
Caniac's
question,
demand.
sir?
The
Sorry.
question, once again, and I love doing it. Caniacs demand too much from the players.
Yeah, I think that's wrong. The fans' expectation is high, and these are the best hockey players in the world. And I don't think we expect perfection. If you're expecting perfection, then you are expecting too much from your players. I don't think that is most Caniac's expectations. I've been bagging on Burns because he hasn't been good. Do I expect Burns to be perfect? No, I expect Burns to make some mistakes. But my issue is not in Burns's play as much as it is that he is slowing down. That's just a fact. That's not something he can control. He's 39. He's an ancient hockey player, right? And how he's being utilized. I don't want Burns traded. I think Burns is great. I don't want Burns traded. I don't want Burns benched. Although I probably do say that once in a blue moon. But I just don't want Burns paying 22 minutes a night. I want Burns paying 15 minutes a night where you can shelter some of those things. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think generally speaking, our expectations are not too high. This team is underperforming. And when they're going well, the Hurricanes fan base is the first fan base to give the guy slack. You know, there's always going to be the subset who wants perfection, right? Every fan base is going to have those few people who are going to nitpick everything. And we even say like, hey, we're nitpicking about stuff today because everything's going really well. But generally speaking, I don't think we demand too much. I think we demand a lot. But these are the best hockey players in the world. They have a lot to give.
So, Brad, what I'm going to say might seem to be splitting hairs, but I, as a fan, do demand perfection from my team. But my perfection is showing up on time and playing your game the way you can every night.
Yeah.
That is my perfection, not winning.
60 minutes of
scoring.
effort.
Yeah, 60 full minutes of effort. Because you know what? Right now, it feels like this team is trying to prove or go for some unknown record of how little they have to play to win a game in the NHL. Like when we looked at the Toronto game, we were there for it. They played all of what, 8-9 minutes in that one?
Maybe
and they scared
less.
the crap. They scared the crap out of the Leafs fans around us. Like that 3-goal burst in 3 minutes, and it got quiet around us. There was a lot of chirping.
And that's it was already fairly quiet, to be fair. I mean,
Yeah.
There was some chirping going on, but I mean nothing mean-spirited at all.
No.
And generally speaking, I can see why Toronto gets the reputation in the building that it does.
Yeah, it's just that way. My idea of perfection is different. I demand perfection, but my perfection is just give me the effort. Just go out there for a full 60, no shifts off. And that even is unfair because you're going to have a night, right? You're just not feeling it. Things going on at home, whatever, you're not feeling it. But that's my demand. And so, yeah, I think maybe we can get lost in certain things, but you're right. They are professionals, and this is part of the job, right? Part of their job is to deal with all of us, and what our takes are. And the best part of our job, Brad, is that we get amazing guests that join us and share their knowledge, share their perspective, and they bring things that make us think about where we're at. And Bethany has done that for me today. I can say that with full sincerity and clarity.
Thank
I
you.
loved having you here. Love your perspective. Love the fact that you're bringing people to preseason games. That's friggin' amazing. I love that because it shows how much you love the team. Bethany, you've made this episode so great, and I certainly appreciate you coming in to join us.
Yeah, thank you.
Would you be willing to come back?
Oh yeah, 100%. I love this.
Awesome.
I don't get to talk this in depth with hockey to my friends. I just bring them to the game and they're there for the snacks and for the fights and I'm sitting there bent over like he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have done that and they don't get it at all. But they're there, so that's all that matters.
Speaking of being there for the snacks, I have to do a quick shout out to Caniac Annie, a very quick one. I saw those when you talked about the snacks on Whalers night, the Zamboni popcorn thing. I was like, oh my, but they put that in Whalers, man. And of course, the Hurricanes have their PR team and stuff, and they're pointing out how great this thing is, and make sure you get yours. And I kind of put just a flyer out like, it sure would be nice if us Calgary Caniacs could get in on one of those Whalers Zambonis. That'd be awesome. And she took pity on me and said, hey, I can get you one. The problem was she said it during the game when she could have, and I didn't see her message until after the game. It was too late, and I was like, oh, this stinks. I'm sorry I missed it, but thanks anyway. They'll probably do something again next year. Then lo and behold, yesterday, I get this little picture, and there she is, holding the Zamboni in the bag. She says, so where do I send this? And I jumped off the couch. I was like, yes, I've got the Zamboni. So the snacks, don't dismiss the going just for the snacks, especially in the things that they come in. And
ice cream helmets. Ice cream helmets. We have 5 of them. We have 5 of them in our cabinet. Anytime we get ice cream, we're like, get the helmet.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely love it. Brad, what a great episode. This was
it was cathartic, I think. I got some things
I think it was. Let's you know what cures everything is not just solid play. Wins cure everything. So let's have a win.
Get one today.
Flames.
Yeah, you have Calgary today, Detroit Tuesday, Bruins Thursday. All winnable games, as usual. Like 2 at home, like today and Thursday. You have the quick 1-up to Detroit, then you come back in a week and a half for 3 more home games. I mean, there's a lot of hockey being played. They should get 4 or 5 points, if not 6, this week. I mean, they just should. But they have to play 60 minutes. If they don't play 60 minutes, then they could get 0 or 2 points.
Yeesh. Frightening. Let's hope for the best. Bethany, thank you so much. Brad, there's something missing though. We've talked a lot and very cathartic. Sometimes you're like, man, it's all
if you get the complaining out, it doesn't fester.
Yeah, it doesn't fester, but
I mean,
sometimes you end up missing something though. You know what I mean? What is it?
Go Whalers.
Go Whalers. You know what? I personally think we should have more Whalers nights.
Thank you, Bethany. Oh,
we should have at least 4 in the season. If you have to have a NASCAR night, you can have more Whalers nights. Okay,
have one a month, or just wear home greens.
Bethany gets the best chair in the storm cellar.
In the cellar.
Yeah, absolutely. The best. When you say beautiful things like that about the Whalers, you're always going to make me happy. Go Whalers, go Canes.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us by email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.